So
Fantastic. Let's move away from consumer and let's
sure.
talk a little bit more. I mean, in many ways, the U.S. telcos had to go through this because demand surged
Yes.
also, right? So this is painful regardless of where you go. What role, you head a telecommunication company in a developing nation. What role do you see that playing for development in the Philippines?
I think for us being in the emerging market, the mobile telco plays a much bigger role because there is no landline.
Correct.
In far-flung parts of this country, the only available means of communication is the mobile phone, and so our role is very critical. The people don't have an option but for us to serve them, and that's why we continue, even if we've covered maybe 97% of the population, we still continue and strive to cover the last 2%.
Is there
of
any
the
growth
country.
in landline anymore?
No, there isn't. There's a global decline in
Yes.
landline revenues because people don't call landlines anymore.
Correct.
Because if you call landline, you still have to find the person, and if the person's not there, people just call straight to the mobile.
So if
already.
mobile is the future, how do you see it changing lives now?
It's definitely changing lives in a very significant manner. And I think it's quite transformative when people communicate with each other. But even more, I think it's the advent of mobile broadband. Because right now, people in a community are they're no longer limited to information within their community, right? Once you open up the web to everybody, then their world completely opens up. It also enables things that we're involved with, like mobile banking, right?
Correct.
Access to financial services, right? Through our GCash or our BPI Globe Banco product, people who are far from banks, who are not wanted by banks as customers because of the tier that they're in society. 80% of our
Correct.
population remains unbanked.
Yes.
Having mobile access provides them financial services, right? And if you look at the levels of transformation, you have communication,
Correct.
basic, right? That helps. Then the internet, that provides access and opens up their world of information. And then now financial inclusion, right? So if you give them all those three things, I think it does transform people's lives tremendously.
I mean, if you take that further out, everything that's done in the real world can actually now be done on your mobile phone.
That's right. Through applications and
Right.
so on. Yes.
So how far away do you think true banking services, how far can that rural banking is happening? We know that in some parts of the Philippines, in areas where law and order is weak, some payroll is sent out on GCash, but
Yes.
the adoption rate is still very low.
It is.
How far away do you see this becoming a reality?
I think as more people get into it, right, where people more have that tender in their wallets, as more outlets accept the GCash or the e-money product, the easier it is to use the product, the
Right.
more they'll keep it in that wallet, right? So the way we view it is actually we are not competing with anything but cash. What the mandate we've given our people who manage the GCash product is be more convenient than cash. Cash with all of its attendant difficulties like access, security, and so on. Whereas GCash or any e-money product would be safe in a server, right? You can transact anywhere eventually. If you don't have to pull out your wallet, you don't have to go to an ATM machine. It's
Yes.
always with you,
Yes.
right?
If you're talking like this, I mean, you can even do things like microfinancing through cell phones,
And we
right?
do. We do with the BPI
How much?
Globe
How much
Banco.
of this do you have right now?
It's still very small. There's about 1 million customers already
On GCash.
on BPI Globe
Okay.
Banco, but they all maintain very small balances. We first went to the wholesale market where we provided other microfinance lenders with wholesale money to lend, right? Now BPI Globe is now moving into retail microfinance because it's really easy. You apply via your cell phone. You receive the money in GCash and you pay it back by GCash. You don't have to
Right.
go to the bank. I mean, a microloan of 500 or 1,000 pesos or even 5,000 pesos, if you have to make a payment of 200 pesos and walk 2 hours to get there just to make a payment, it's very inconvenient. Right?
Correct.
But now we allow the consumer to just pay through text or pay through an app on the GCash platform.
So again, you're talking only about 1 million, but this is potentially revolutionary to do something like this now. How long do you think it'll take before you hit a tipping point
I think it's still going to be a while. I do think probably 2 or 3 more years, I would imagine.
That's fast
Yeah.
still. That's good.
It's accelerating.
Yeah.
Gcash has been around for I think 5 or 6 years, right? As a product for Globe, and it's only now you're seeing sort of the take-up accelerating. We've done pilots with Starbucks, for instance, right? Where people can now pay through either barcode or contactless solution on most of the Starbucks outlets in the country, I think, or in Manila.
Yes.
I believe there's 120 outlets that are doing that. There's always the transport. The DOTC has released a tender, and I think e-money is going to become a key player in all of that. Imagine you don't have to get any tickets or cards, just use your phone to make a payment. That would be extraordinary.
So you mean to tell me at some point in the future I can just take my cell phone and go to the grocery, go to the MRT, and I can just do it on my cell phone?
Absolutely. There's actually things in South Korea
doing
where they've actually put a large poster with all of the pictures and barcodes of grocery items. And people, as they're waiting for the train in the train station, are actually going shopping, scanning the barcodes, and paying with their e-money, and then getting delivered at home. So they're shopping by pictures, if you would, right? And so I think we're still quite a ways from that, given the penetration of smartphones in the country. But as smartphones come in, the opportunities to do much more on the phones using the apps are going to increase, I think, exponentially.
Can you do this? Can you be a leader when your competition has 70% of the market? How do you deal with that with new products like this?
I believe we can, given that we're not actually a small company. We have a lot of resources at our disposal, and we have the backing of a very large group, actually groups, which is Ayala and the Singtel group. So we're able to do a lot of the own development towards more leading edge applications and products. We're also very much involved in scouting around for new technology. Very involved with startups. We funded a subsidiary called Kickstart Ventures, which is an incubator that really tries to help the budding entrepreneur, technology entrepreneur in the country, right? Because previously there was no way of financing their dreams, right? So Kickstart's an incubator accelerator concept, right? That helps these guys, not only here in the Philippines, but also with possible exits eventually, because we hook up with a lot of US venture capital firms, right? That alongside Singtel, which has a huge digital life effort right now with outposts out in the valley, where they're able to look at many leading edge applications that are relevant to mobile, and then they can share with the group. For instance, Singtel recently bought a mobile ad company called Amobi, knowing that the trend is shifting towards your traditional above the line to very much more targeted mobile campaigns and very personal campaigns using apps on your phones, for instance. So they've done that. They just acquired also a company called Pixable. It has a very good recommendation engine technology where it recommends your most favored photos of the day across your multiple social networking sites, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, right? And will recommend them to you. They've also acquired a restaurant reservations company in Singapore called Hungry Go Where, right? That now allows you to reserve a table in your favorite restaurant. So all of these things are going to come eventually to the Philippines through Globe. Well, we've actually started already. We recently introduced an app called G Movies, where you can actually reserve movie seats in Ayala and SM theaters and pay for it by GCash. And actually, it's ticketless. We would send you back a barcode. You go into the theater, you just go out the door and scan it and go in, no lines.
We use this. What about media? I mean, everyone has been talking about a convergence. Is Globe looking at media companies? Are you looking at a convergence plan?
We are definitely looking at a convergence plan. We do think media is key. We look at actually media as part of what people do on their smartphones, right? But our view of media is quite different in that we want to do media for multiple screens, not the traditional form of media where it's watched, you watch it on TV. So, we are looking at formats that suit the viewing habits on a mobile, viewing habits on a tablet, viewing habits on a PC, or all three combined. And our strategy has been, more of a partnership mode. We're talking to different media companies and acquiring their content or partnering with them and delivering content rather than doing our own production. because we, and like you know how difficult it is to make original content and make it in huge quantities, right? To supply an insatiable thirst for it. No? We're very pragmatic about that, and because there are companies already out there willing to partner with us. With this talk about ABS, CBN, and Globe coming together, that's always been discussions, and that's how the buy-in discussion and the buy-in transaction came about. It's all of these constant talks between the two companies. So that is part of the strategy that we're trying to put forward.
So you're not looking at acquiring ABS, CBN, or GMA7, or any of these TV stations?
Not necessarily.
So tactical, strategic, I mean?
Yeah, just partnerships, you would say.
Partnerships.
Yeah, because I think eventually those types of companies, the traditional TV stations, will need a partnership with a telco.
Yes.
Because they cannot stay
Definitely.
in single screen.
Yes.
Right? Like you yourselves would also need a partnership with
We
telco.
rely on telcos.
To deliver the content.
Absolutely, yeah. In terms of the future, what excites you most now when you look forward here in the Philippines?
What's most exciting, actually, for one, is the economy is doing great.
Incredible.
Right? Incredible growth.
Stellar for us, actually.
So it helps us, right,
Yes.
in terms of sustaining our growth. And it also helps us as people transition and the incomes get higher to afford the data plans that are going to come with those smartphones. But what's exciting for me is the shift in behavior of consumers. It's a new problem to solve, right? People are really moving away from traditional voice and text as their only form of communication, very heavy into social media, into chatting, and so on, right? So for me, it's a very exciting time, but it's also a challenging time for the telco. Because the two products I mentioned, SMS and voice, were our traditional revenue sources and very profitable revenue sources for all the companies involved in it. So as a manager, as an entrepreneur, it's a very interesting challenge.
Well, right now it's almost one era is ending and another is
Yes,
beginning, right?
yes.
And you have to manage this transition.
Well, the mobile space is disrupting everything.
Yeah.